Good morning. I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to particularly thank our local leaders, advocates, community stakeholders for standing together on an issue that deserves much more transparency than we in the city of Irvine, in this part of Orange County, have received. And I want to thank Council members Melinda Liu and Betty Martinez Franco for helping us to secure this space and for being here today. I want to thank Lindsay Toxolowski. Am I pronouncing that anywhere close to correctly?
Close.
Tokolowski?
Tozlowski.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
From Immigrant Defenders, Ash Alvandy from Asian Americans Advancing Justice, Felicity Figueroa from Orange County Rapid Response Network, and Terry LePage, Reverend at the Unitary. No, where?
Irvine United Congregation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, UCC. And we're here today because communities across Orange County are demanding answers. And we publicly invited ICE. We sent them an invitation over email. It is very disappointing that they are not here. In fact, I would say it's outrageous because we here in Orange County deserve answers. We have a number of city leaders who are wondering about the new proposed office space, the lease in Irvine. You have the sitting member of Congress representing this area asking for a public meeting. And yet what we have seen over and over is that ICE is not willing to engage with us. They are not willing to show their faces, literally, to talk to the members of the communities that they are terrorizing. And we deserve to know why ICE is renting office space in Irvine. How many people are they planning to hold here? What activities are they planning? What safeguards are we as citizens and residents of this area going to have to ensure that our rights are respected, that the rights of our neighbors, whether or not they are here legally or not, what safeguards they will have to protect their safety and their basic rights, what impact this might have on nearby businesses, on our schools, our daycares, and on the surrounding communities. I had the chance to visit Minneapolis a few months back in the throes of that ICE activity. And we heard from people across the board there about the turmoil that ICE activity was causing there, that it was having a massive impact on business, that people were afraid to leave their homes because when ICE comes into a community and invades that community, they're not just picking up targeted arrests. They're going after people indiscriminately based on what they look like, based on whether they're protesting or not. And we have seen we've seen ICE agents commit throughout this country clear assaults and violations of the law with apparently no accountability. And we have not gotten any single answers, including on a letter we sent to ICE earlier this year asking what the purpose and nature of this office in Irvine would be. I have, as a member of Congress, now twice asked ICE to come out and face our community. And as you can see from this empty chair right here, they have not responded to us. They've not even dignified us with a response. We've heard nothing but silence from ICE. And you can imagine that if a member of Congress representing an area where ICE is planning to operate does not receive answers, what that means for the average citizens out there. They are not receiving answers, and all we want is transparency. None of the questions we're asking right now, or that I think we'll hear from our different stakeholders, are questions that are unreasonable. I want to know, what's the duration of this lease? What's the mission of this office? What's the legal authority for the operations that they plan to conduct here? Will they be doing any detentions in this facility? How many people will be operating? Whether these are meant to be temporary or permanent operations? What coordination they might have with local law enforcement. By the way, one of the things we heard in Minneapolis was that local police were being strained to the limit because the natural instinct of anybody, anywhere in America, is when you see a masked man jumping out of an unmarked vehicle and tackling somebody, punching them in the face, pulling a gun on them, with no identification, your instinct is to call the police. And they were being inundated with 911 calls, and they were incurring massive costs to try in response to these 911 calls. What coordination will they have with local law enforcement, and what safety guardrails will be in place to protect members of the community? We want to just make sure that ICE agents, DHS agents, CBP agents are following the law. Just like our local law enforcement does, just like members of the FBI do, there's no difference between ICE agents and anybody else. They are supposed to follow the law, and that is the reason that we invited ICE here today, because we wanted to hear directly from them. We wanted to express our concerns to them. And I will just say I sent over 15 questions that I wanted them to answer, and they sent back a 5-sentence letter that did not respond to any of those. They did not answer the questions we asked. It did not come anywhere close to meeting the level of transparency this community deserves, and they did not respond to our request to show up here today. So we are going to hold a town hall here with members of the community who showed up here. And I just want to emphasize, this is not about one lease. It's not about one office in Irvine. This is a pattern across this country right now. My colleagues in Congress, on a predominantly partisan line vote, approved a $170 billion budget for ICE and DHS last year, including $35 billion to hire new personnel, over $100 billion for detention facilities and new office spaces. We have seen reports that they're now opening up warehouses to house potentially over 100,000 people at one given time. That sounds a lot like a concentration camp, not like a detention facility. These are not designed as prisons. They're designed as facilities to temporarily house people. We've heard allegations of abuse in the facilities they operate. I was at Adelanto recently and saw for myself some of the conditions they faced. I heard from people being detained there that it got to 40 degrees at night, that many people were sick, they did not have enough clothing or blankets, that the food was essentially equivalent to pet food, was what one person told me, that it was inedible. People were hungry, they were malnourished, they were cold and sick, and they'd been there for many, many months. Now ICE wants to open up its footprint, expand its footprint into Irvine, and what community consideration is going to be taken here? What stakeholder engagement? Apparently, if we look at their behavior not coming today, the answer is going to be zero community input. This is an area that has a vibrant economy, a vibrant tourist economy, and I am very concerned that ICE activities here may cause the same outcomes that we saw in Minneapolis, and that we will see tourism drop off, that we will see our businesses, many of whom have hired significant numbers of immigrant employees here on valid visas, but those are people being terrorized right now. So I think ICE agents deserve, they must respect the law. The fact that they are not here today reflects their contempt for the rule of law that we've seen over and over. And we are going to continue to demand answers because ICE is not above the law. There is a rule of law in America, and even though this administration has largely ignored it, there will be a comeuppance, that people who are violating the law will be held to account, and that includes senior officials at ICE and DHS. There will be oversight, there will be accountability, so they can ignore us today, but we are not going away, and that is the message that I want to send today. That ICE's empty chair today does not signify the end of this conversation, but rather the beginning. And we will see butts in chairs like this very soon, and we will get answers from people at ICE and DHS, and we'll continue pressing them for answers. I want to thank you all for being here, and I look forward to the discussion. And with that, I want to now turn it over to our first speaker, Councilwoman Melinda Liu, representing the 1st District of Irvine.
Good morning, I'm Councilmember Melinda Liu, and I represent Irvine's District 1. And thank you to Congressman Min for gathering this community here for this important conversation today. And it's a very, very disappointing view to see that there's an empty chair, that ICE chose not to accept our invitation to hear from the people affected by their actions directly today. In the last year, there have been at least 12 people detained by ICE activities within the boundaries of Irvine. And these numbers represent people, families, workplace, and a community being affected. Their actions created fear, confusion, and lasting harm in our community and local businesses. In response to that, I had joined Councilmember Martinez-Franco and Mayor Agron to introduce a memo to establish an immigrant legal fund of $100,000 in Irvine to help connect families affected to critically needed resources. And because of these impacts, these activities cause fear, confusion, and that's not acceptable. And our office has been actively responding to the growing concerns of residents. Last summer, when we first learned about potential ICE activities in Irvine, our office quickly mobilized and distribute Know Your Rights materials all throughout the city in multiple languages. So we hit every neighborhood and business centers. And our goal is not to create fear. Our goal is to make sure that the residents know that they have rights and they are also protected in Irvine. And so at its core, it's about due process rights. This is a country that's built on the fundamental principles that we all have fundamental rights as residents and as humans. And due process rights protect everybody in America, physically present in the United States, regardless of their immigration status. And so, as a council member, it is my responsibility to take care of the safety, welfare, and health of everybody who lives and works in Irvine, and I take that responsibility very seriously. And because of the uncertainty and the lack of transparency, our residents are scared, and they are starting to have their trust in our government shaken. And so my question to ICE now is, with this facility, can you commit to make sure that you're not detaining anybody here, and even if temporarily, and anything you do in Irvine will be upholding our fundamental constitutional due process rights? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question to ICE. And again, I want to emphasize it is a damn shame that there's no one here from the Department of Homeland Security or ICE to answer these questions. Our next speaker is Irvine Council Member Betty Martinez Franco, representing the 5th District of Irvine. Thank you, Betty.
Good morning. My name is Betty Martinez Franco, and I'm the City Council Member for District 5 here in Irvine. I want to thank Congressman Min for confirming our worst suspicions that ICE is renting a space right here in our city, completely behind our backs. That lack of transparency is unacceptable. Last year, our community endured 2 raids at local car washes. We watched unidentified agents forcefully pull someone from their car, acting more like kidnappers than government officials. Our residents are terrified that this new location will just bring more of the same. Irvine is a very diverse city. We welcome people from all over the world with open arms. This situation doesn't only hurt our residents' morale, it threatens our ability to attract and keep international businesses and tourism. As your city government, we have the right to know what operations are happening in our backyard. I assure you, our community safety comes first. So I have one simple question for them. What guarantee will you give us that you are not here to terrorize our families? Now in Spanish. Buenos días, mi nombre es Betty Martínez Franco y soy la concejal del Distrito 5 de la ciudad de Irvine. Quiero agradecer al congresista Min por confirmar nuestras peores sospechas de que ICE está rentando un espacio aquí mismo en nuestra ciudad y a espalda de todos nosotros. Esa falta de transparencia es inaceptable. El año pasado nuestra comunidad sufrió 2 redadas en negocios locales y vimos cómo agentes de inmigración actuaron más como secuestradores que como oficiales de gobierno. Nuestra gente teme que esta oficina solo traiga más de lo mismo. Tenemos una ciudad que es muy diversa y recibimos gente de todo el mundo con los brazos abiertos. Esta situación no solo interrumpe la tranquilidad de nuestros residentes, sino también amenaza nuestra capacidad para atraer negocios y turismo internacional. Como gobierno local, tenemos el derecho a conocer qué tipo de operaciones se están realizando en nuestra propia ciudad. La seguridad de nuestra comunidad es nuestra prioridad. Así que tengo una simple pregunta para ICE. ¿Qué garantía nos va a dar de que ellos no están aquí para aterrorizar nuestras familias? Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And I just want to reiterate something she said. Irvine is a place that thrives on diversity. It's over 50% non-white. If you go in any direction, you'll see amazing food options of all cultures and ethnicities. Great Mexican food, Asian food, and the like. But just as importantly, we have a booming economy driven by the contributions of immigrants from all over the world. And those people right now are scared. And that is what is happening in Irvine. Our next speaker is Lindsay Toshlowski, the CEO of Immigrant Defenders Law Center. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman Min. I think this is such an incredibly important topic, and we're so glad to be invited along with the councilwomen today to speak on this. I think we need to think about this office opening in Irvine with the context of the situation that we are in. We as a community are living in the deadliest year in ICE history. It is on track to be that. We have had 15 deaths in ICE custody since the beginning of 2026. Let that sink in. That is a rate of almost one person every 6 days. Now, ICE, in their response to Congressman Min in saying that this office is not meant to process people, should not be believed. And it is a shame that they are not here to answer for that insufficient response, that they will not be holding people or processing people in this office. And I am not just telling you not to believe them because I say so. Look at their record. ICE has, and excuse me, I'll look at my notes to make sure that I get these cities correct. We have on record them holding people in office spaces in Burlington, Massachusetts, Chicago, Illinois, Virginia, Dallas, Texas, and here in California in San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles, and San Diego. One person who was held for 4 days in an office in San Francisco said it was hell. And I can tell you that I personally have spoken to Immigrant Defender Law Center clients who were held in conditions overnight, sometimes for days, in Los Angeles that were not meant for housing people. One of them was our client Javier, who was in active chemotherapy for advanced cancer and was held in a room with more than 60 people, so crowded that he was unable to lay down that night to sleep. He had to sleep in a sitting position. He also had inadequate access to water, and the bathrooms were not set up to house people overnight. Another family, a young couple with their 3-year-old child, was held for almost 4 days in an office in downtown Los Angeles, and the child was only given a bag of chips and juice boxes before they were transferred to Dilley, Texas. We were able to bring them back to California and get them the due process that they are deserved, but it was only because they had access to counsel. My question for ICE, and again, agree with you that it is an absolute shame that they are not here to answer to community. But my question for them is, in a year where people are dying at an alarming rate, in a year where our office has had to sue you in the LTV ICE lawsuit that was filed in January 2026 because of the abhorrent conditions at the Adelanto detention facility, because we know you have a track record of holding people in offices for days on end, how are you going to guarantee that opening an office in Irvine is not going to be more of what has already happened and not going to result in more death? Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay, and I appreciate what you just said. And I'll just note that we have zoning laws that prohibit certain spaces from being used for residential habitation. We have certain laws requiring minimum conditions for facilities that imprison and detain people. And once again, ICE is showing its complete disregard for laws. Whether they're laws here in Irvine, laws in Chicago, federal laws, they think they are above the law, and that is not at all acceptable. Our next speaker is Ash Alvandi, Vice President of Orange County Asian Americans Advancing Justice.
Good morning. Thank you, Congressmember Min, for having us all today. My name is Ash Alvandi. I'm Vice President at Asian Americans Advancing Justice. We are the nation's largest legal and civil rights organization serving the Asian American community. We're here in Irvine, a city that is 40% Asian American. And this office here is not about administrative efforts. It's not an administrative office. It's not about public safety. ICE is using fear-based tactics throughout our country, and it is having impacts on our community, as many of the other speakers today said. We know that it is impacting everybody throughout the community. And we've seen this before. In similar facilities, in similar offices, people have been detained without access to legal help, without any resources, and oftentimes without any information being shared about where they are to their families. And that fear, that uncertainty spreads. We know that people are afraid to go to school, they're afraid to go to work, and our community is deeply impacted. When people start questioning whether it's okay to go to work or it's okay to send their kids to school, that's what erosion of rights looks like in real time. And right now, our communities are feeling that. ICE is attacking our communities directly, and the AAPI community, the Asian American community, is too often left out of this conversation. Government should not be about fear. It should be about justice and access and equity and resources. So I'll ask this question to the empty chair. Do you think that fear should be the defining experience of government? Thank you.
Thank you, Ash. Our next speaker, Felicity Figueroa with the OC Rapid Response Network.
Good morning, and thank you again, Congressman Min, for inviting us all here. So, my name's Felicity, and I have lived in Irvine for almost 35 years, and I'm a core member of the Orange County Rapid Response Network. The fact that ICE is here in Irvine is causing fear and distrust among our residents. At the network, we have seen multiple instances of ICE agents snatching our community members as they go about their daily lives in our city. 3 women were kidnapped by ICE as they arrived at their place of work in Irvine just a few months ago. We helped a European man who lived with his American citizen wife in Irvine. He had a business and employees, and so was contributing to the local economy. Earlier this year, he went in for his customary immigration check-in to the federal office and never came out. An Irvine High student was on a school trip to Disneyland when she heard that her mother had been taken by ICE. She rushed home, only to be snatched as well. She and her mother were sent to detention jail in Texas and then summarily shipped off to China, leaving her school friends in tears. And on the corner right below your new offices on Main, a man was on the way to drop off his pregnant wife at her job here when his car was cut off in the middle of the road by an ICE vehicle. He showed them one of our red cards that we have outlining his constitutional rights. And in response, the ICE agents shattered his driver's side window, pulled him out of his car, and forced him into their vehicle, all the while refusing to identify themselves or show their judicial warrant that they said they allegedly had to his pregnant wife, despite her repeated requests. Instead, they took off with her husband and left her and the car, which she did not know how to drive, in the middle of the road. Fortunately, she had recorded the attack, and we were able to witness the entire episode and see the torn up red card on the ground underneath the shards of glass from his window. Not only are residents understandably scared, even the occupants of other offices in the surrounding buildings on Main are feeling the negative consequences of the ICE presence. We were told by an employee of an international banking firm that works next door that their South American clients will no longer come to their offices because they are afraid that your ICE agents might grab them and make them disappear as well. So, my question to you, ICE agent, is this. When will you all start abiding by the Constitution of the United States instead of your own made-up set of rules? Thank you.
Thank you, Felicity. Our last speaker, certainly not least, is Reverend Terry LePage from United Congregational Church, Congregationist Church, Dr. Terry LePage. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Congressman Min, for inviting me. I've lived in Irvine for 31 years, and I never knew until last summer that an immigration court is 2 miles up the road from here. Last summer, at that court, I saw families with children led by masked men into unmarked vans. I saw a 74-year-old grandmother handcuffed and led off. I saw a man in tears explaining that if he returned to his home country, he faced certain death. And I heard ICE officers trying to justify to me their behavior. Making a courthouse a place of terror is immoral. Detaining people who have already been promised the protection of the United States is immoral. Destroying the lives and families of longtime residents of our community is immoral. Demonizing people because of their immigration status is immoral. Detention, indefinite, with lack of due process, endangering lives is immoral. Raids that break laws and sow terror are immoral. Irvine residents want ethical, moral government. Is that too much to ask? So we don't want ICE in our city. So the question I have for the ICE representative who isn't here today is, what immoral acts will you refuse to be a part of? Where will you draw the line? Thank you.
Thank you very much to our speakers. Thank you all for being here. I just want to close with a brief statement. I am the child of immigrants myself. My parents came here from Korea in 1970. I have spent my career fighting for the rule of law, both as a federal enforcement attorney, later as a law professor. What is happening right now is deeply personal to me. I know what America stands for. I know what it is supposed to stand for. It's supposed to stand for a rule of law. It's supposed to stand for values like diversity and inclusion and immigration. We are supposed to welcome people here with empathy and love, not make them scared and drive them out with violence and fear. And so what we're seeing out of ICE right now is fundamentally un-American. And there's no better representation of that than here in Irvine, where we thrive because of our diversity, because of our cultural values of so many people across the world coming here to this country. But these people are scared right now. And what ICE is doing is a lot of things that are just so contrary, as Dr. LePage mentioned, to any understanding of what is moral and good. But they are also breaking the law over and over and over again. And so I don't have a question for the ICE agents, but I do have a message that if you are breaking the law and you think somehow being a federal agent is going to keep you immune from any kind of criminal prosecution, we will be coming for you. Anyone who violates the law right now, whether an ICE agent or not, is subject to the rule of law, the full enforcement of those laws, and we will be coming after you. Maybe not today, maybe not next year, but at some point we will be coming after you with the full force of the law, and that is my message. So follow the rule of law. Stop demonizing people. Stop attacking people in our streets. With that, I am happy to open up to any questions that members of the media or others might have for myself or any of the panelists here. Yes, if you don't mind identifying yourself too.
Mona Darwish with the OC Register. I'm just curious, has your office had any luck actually contacting someone from ICE?
Not related to this office. As I mentioned, we got a very short 5-sentence letter in response to our questions about what this ICE office was for. I have interacted with government relations officials from ICE in the context of a visit I had to the Santa Ana processing facility, and then on site at Adelanto, the major detention center here in Southern California. But we've not been able to have any kind of regular discourse. We don't even know who is running this particular office. We don't have any contact person. They have, and my understanding, and the Irvine council members can confirm and deny this, but I don't think you've had any, or the mayor's had any contact with ICE as well. So they're opening up an office here in the heart of Orange County in a place that is known for being the safest place in the country, right? This has always been one of the top 3 safest cities in the country. We don't have any immigration-related crime. I'm not aware of any kind of significant issues with undocumented immigration, and yet ICE has opened up a major office facility here that we don't know what it's for. We don't know how many people are going to be there, and they're not in contact with any of the government officials representing this area.
Thank you. And then if I could just expand that question to anyone.
Have any of you guys heard from ICE, been in contact with anyone from ICE?
Only in the courts. And then there were agents who gave us excuses as to why they were there and had, at least they had some kind of official papers, which is not what we're seeing now. They're just targeting people randomly. South County has been very badly hit recently with what looks to us like racial profiling. So that is hardly the rule of law.
Congressman Min, can you share a little bit more? What did they say in that?
In the 5, we can share that with you later, but it was essentially a non-answer. I think I have some notes here, but we can share that with you after this conference. Russell, can you, my understanding.
Essentially,
Yeah, go ahead.
they essentially just said that it was for administrative purposes.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yep, Susan.
Yes, on behalf of the voters, I have a question, because I'm really fear the impact that ICE will have on our election system, on the election process. So my question is, what steps will be taken to protect voters and their votes by mail, drop box, and in-person voting at voter precinct locations from ICE and other forms of government intervention?
Thank you for the question. Without belaboring it, we did have a town hall a few days ago with Joe Morelli, ranking member of the House Administration Committee, a Democrat from New York. He has been tasked by Hakeem Jeffries with spearheading our election protection efforts among House Democrats. So stay tuned for more details, but we are looking very closely at this in coordination with local and state authorities. Yeah, question back there? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Kathy Urban with ETV American. So my question is, what is your next steps for this without any response if they keep themselves like an answer? So what is your next steps for congressionally or and also locally?
What are our next steps? So obviously, should my particular party take back the majority, there'll be a lot of steps next year. A lot of oversight exercised over ICE, DHS, CBP, because we all have a lot of questions. I think Americans have a lot of questions that have not been answered. One of the questions I have is, why have there been no investigations of any of the hundreds, perhaps thousands of allegations of misconduct, criminal assault, or other wrongful actions by ICE agents? I have a close relationship with my local law enforcement, and if a police officer here in Irvine or in Costa Mesa was videotaped pulling a gun on someone with no provocation or cause, that officer would be suspended. There would be an investigation, body cams, microphones. You'd have a full investigation with witness interviews. The results of that investigation typically would be released to the public, and the officer would only be put back on duty if they were cleared of any misconduct. To my knowledge, the only time we've seen anybody suspended was after the murder of Alex Preddy, and only after there's such a significant public backlash that they couldn't get away with claiming that this was self-defense. I don't believe there's ever been a suspension of another ICE or DHS or CBP agent. To my knowledge, there have been no investigations I'm aware of, including of those 2 ICE agents that murdered Alex Preddy. Where are the investigation? Where are the guardrails? Because if someone breaks the law, they should be subject to the rule of law. So that is kind of where we are. Yeah.
Sort of as a follow-up, so if a federal agent was to, be recorded or seen, breaking the law in Irvine, is there anything that Irvine PD could do in that capacity?
So I believe, and I don't want to misspeak, but it would be up to the jurisdiction of the Irvine Police, maybe California Highway Patrol, maybe the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, and the local DA, Todd Spitzer. I don't want to speak for them. They have authority over local and state law and law enforcement. I do believe if you murdered someone, you are subject to, that is a state crime in California. Whether or not you're wearing a badge or not, if you just walk up to someone and shoot them in the head, that is murder. I do believe charges can be brought. Obviously, there's complications when you're having federal versus state and local, but I will just say the claim made by Vice President J.D. Vance that there's absolute immunity for these folks is wrong. I think some of them are operating under that premise. If they have committed any crimes at the state level, they are still subject to prosecution.
If I could just add
Yeah.
there, I think.
Would you like to come up to the mic?
Sure. I think that's exactly correct, and I think that what we have seen since January of 2025 is Stephen Miller and Donald Trump believing that their agencies and their agents are above the law. But the truth is, no matter what Vice President Vance says, agents are accountable to the law. And regardless of whether it's inconvenient to their plans for mass deportation, the Constitution still exists. And so certainly an officer in Irvine, California, or anywhere in the United States who violates the law, murders citizens or non-citizens alike, should and will be held accountable at some point, even if it does not happen today because of the current administration.
I would just also add the statute of limitations for most crimes extends far beyond the duration of this administration. And in most states, there is no statute of limitations for murder. So if you see an ICE agent do something wrong, we have video of that, that ICE agent in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years could still be indicted and brought to prosecution. And that is something every federal agent working under DHS should realize. Yeah.
Beyond investigations,
Mhm.
if you are reelected,
Yeah.
what would you like to see change
Yeah.
in how we address immigration?
That's great. So first of all, I didn't answer the complete question. In the meantime, before we take back the gavels next year, I think what we will continue to do is continue to call out ICE, try to do what oversight we can while in the minority. So I probably plan to visit the ICE offices here in Irvine at some point after they're up and running. I may show up unannounced and see if they will allow me access, as I believe they're required to do by law. We want to continue the oversight efforts. We'll continue to push in Washington, D.C. as well. I'm a member of the Oversight Committee, and while we're in the minority, we're going to continue pushing our Republican colleagues to open up investigations. Should we take back the majority, I think obviously we want to rein in the illegality of ICE and DHS. I think we have a further step to do here. What this administration has highlighted is all of the problems with our current immigration system that are inconsistent with American values, right? Nobody wants to see families separated. And yet they can be. And that's an unfortunate reality, is that some of what ICE is doing is grossly illegal. Some of what they're doing is actually legal, but very morally wrong. And so, seizing children, breaking apart families, pulling visas or denying asylum requests, and then immediately detaining and deporting immigrants who are here legally, all that's very wrong. Going after people who've been in this country for 30 years, married to citizens who have kids. I think every American I talk to believes those people should have some pathway to permanent residency and citizenship. So we've been talking about comprehensive immigration reform as long as I can remember, well before I was in any kind of elected office. But I think that this particular administration, if we're looking at silver linings, I hope that this gives us the impetus to come up with a moral, a fair, and a American system of immigration that we can then implement rapidly. Any other questions? I want to thank you all very much for being here. Again, I want to just say that this is outrageous, that nobody is here today, that nobody bothered to show up. And, this reign of terror of anonymously with masks and no identification showing up in our communities while refusing to have any accountability, refusing to face the people that they're trying to terrorize, this is un-American, it's unacceptable, and it has to stop. Thank you very much.